So the fact is, it doesn't matter. The bass line is probably one of the most important things when it comes to this genre. So it's a really important topic. And in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to create fat and groovy bass lines. So whether you're a beginner producer or you just want to improve your skills, you should keep watching this video. But before we go right into it, I want to say thank you to all the people who got our Tech House Master Bundle 2024 edition. It's been 2 weeks since our release and over 300 producers where they got it. So thanks to everybody. You guys are so dope. And now let's get straight to the point. At its core, this genre is meant to be played on big sound systems. This means that if you want your song to sound great, you need to have a fat ass low end. So let's open Serum and choose a bass sound from our pack. And let's start with tip number 1, which is just play with the rhythm. Most people just follow the root note of their melody or chord progression, and they end up with something safe yet boring bass line, something like this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's too flat. One way to switch it up without doing too much is just by adding rhythm to those notes, even if they play the same pitch. So simply by adding a second note in this pattern, you get something with a bit more movement to it, something different like this. So basically, every time I start writing my bass line, I start with the root note. That is just really good starting point, makes everything really, really easy. And then from there, I just start writing the bass line and add more variation to it and continue from there. And then what I usually think about is what kind of bass line should I start with? And there are 3 main types of bass lines in this genre: rolling bass lines, melodic bass lines, and tom bass lines. I'm usually not too logic with this. I just pick something that matches the vibe of the song. And from there, I just try different things, minor changes like changing the length of the note or changing the scale of the pattern, and I just try stuff, minor things, but they're always working. Moving on to tip number 2, which is adding octave jumps. Octave jumps are one of my favorite ones because they are simple yet so effective. So this is how it sounds before, and this is how it sounds after applying octave jumps. So to do this is super easy. Take a few notes and pitch them up an octave to create a more interesting kind of vibe. This is a really easy thing to do, especially if you're using FL Studio or Ableton. Just select the note and then hold Shift and then press up on your arrow pad. Moving up these notes tends to increase the energy and give some kind of life to the bass line. But don't create too much of them, don't abuse it, it can ruin your bass line and you don't have to overcomplicate it. So make sure you are keeping everything simple because guys, it's all about simplicity. The question is, how can I make it that easy and that simple that when every time somebody plays it, it's just so addictive and so easy to remember. Now, moving on to the next tip, which is all about melodic fills. This one is one of the most overrated techniques, but it works very well, especially if you want your bass line to be the #1 star in your track. Basically, you treat your bass like a boss because you're taking advantage of the simplicity that you have in the song, and you just allow your bass line to basically do everything. So let's listen to a short example of how this technique can really make a huge difference. So the first thing you want to do is to think, where do you want to add these fills? And typically a good place to add is before a drop or before a breakdown or at the end of the loop, lasting no more than a few beats, and you want them to just add some interest without taking everything over the mix. Then you can adjust the volume and panning of these notes to create some kind of depth and space into your mix. Now let's move on to the next tip, which is note length. It's not just about when you play a note, but how long also matters. So feel free to cut some notes short or introduce some space in between, because this can completely change the feel, and this can completely change everything about your bass. Sometimes cutting some notes short gives your bass line that extra punch and liveliness, and on the other hand, sometimes you want to hold those notes a little longer, like when you're on that low end, creating that deep rumble gives the bass line some space and make it sound more spacious. So start with a simple bass line using quarter notes or 8 notes, then you can try shortening some of them, create a more dynamic feel. And to add a contrast, tweak the other notes to create a more sustained groove. The thing is that, let's say you have a bass melody and you might think that there's a problem with it, that you need to change the entire bass melody, but it all comes down to how longer or shorter are your notes. So this can definitely transform everything. So next time you're having some doubts about your bass line, just tweak the length of the notes and see how it goes. Now let's move on to the next tip, which is about adding saturation. Maybe you considered this before, or maybe it's a new concept for you. Either way, if you haven't started, now is the time to start. I know there might be some people out there saying, no, I don't like using saturation, but I ask, why not? It makes everything way more better. What's wrong with it? Because in my experience, saturation makes everything way more present, more real, like it's right in front of your face. And here are a few examples of before and after applying saturation on my bass line. So yeah, listen closely. Yeah, without a doubt, is worth giving a shot. For me, it's not just a technique, it's a habit. So don't forget to drink water, don't forget to add some saturation. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can get the same results with just an EQ, because saturation adds harmonic distortion to the audio, which a simple EQ can't do it. I say that because I see a lot of producers boosting that low mid area on their bass, thinking that they're making the bass more fat and powerful or anything like that. So stop doing it, use saturation instead. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. You probably knew about these tips, and maybe you think they are too simple or too basic, but the thing is that it's not like we need to calculate rocket science or for a bass line or anything like that. It's about smaller things, and sometimes we forget about the smaller things, like changing the length of the note or simply moving it up a scale. So there are smaller things that overall they stack together and they become a big ball of problems that can affect your sound and how you want it to be. So yeah, I hope you learned something from this video. If you're looking for some great bass presets, make sure to check out a Tech House Master bundle on our website, our newest release, which also comes with a collection of 26 bass presets with everything from plucky, sub, stab, breeze basses. So make sure to check out our website down below in the description. And if you want to see my full process of creating a Tech House track and passing down some knowledge, you can check out this video right here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to drink some water, and as well, don't forget to add some saturation to your bass line.